basketball and football. Every other sport, no, I'm really bad at every other sport. But besides that, I think I'm a decent gambler. So I've been posting some videos now for a while, and been posting just comedy videos, just like having fun. And yeah, so today we're going to be talking NBA. There's a huge NBA slate today. There's a 10-game NBA slate. There is Thursday night football. There's Thursday night football tomorrow. Great game. Yeah, good game. Um, I want the Cardinals to lose, but I don't. They're not going to. And then we'll get into some college football because it's a huge weekend if you're a Big Ten fan like me and like college football. Like the Big Ten, there's some premier matchups in the Big Ten that I'm excited for. And then we'll finish it off if we have time with some MLB World Series. I do not bet baseball, but I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan, and I want Astros failure, so they're down. I just want them to lose. Nothing would make me happier than Astros failure. But okay, let's get into the picks. Let's start off NBA. So 10-game slate, 2 games on ESPN. There's some great matchups. Heat are taking on the Nets. That's a really great game. There's some really interesting games tonight. My first pick, Cavs +8. This is a borderline mortal lock for me, truly. This is like a borderline mortal lock. I don't throw these out. I do not throw these out all the time. Like, this is something that I do maybe once every 6 months, but I'm not super confident in my mortal locks. Like, I have to be very confident to say it's a mortal lock. Cavs +8 against the Clippers. What have the Clippers done this season to be 8-point favorites against the Cavs? I don't know. I'm looking back on it. They lost to the Warriors, a close game. They still lost to the Warriors. They lost to the Grizzlies at home, and then they stomped the Blazers. So it's kind of hard to get a read on the Clippers. I think, I'm a Clipper fan, and I'm taking the Cavs +8. I know this team. The Cavs are huge. They have Mobley. They have Markham, who plays the 3, I believe, which is insane. They have Mobley, who's playing borderline, like, Mobley's playing like he's playing so well. He's playing like a fifth-year player. And Clippers really struggle with that. They struggle with good centers. They struggle with height. It's just something that the Clippers like to play small. They like Nick Batum to play the 5. They have Zubac, they have Hartenstein, but these are 2 guys that do not do well against good centers, especially Zubac. Hartenstein has been playing out of his mind for the first 3 games, or first 2 games really, but he gets into foul trouble very quickly, which is a big problem for him, because he can only play like 15, 16 minutes a game without fouling out. It's definitely a problem. I think it's just something that you learn as you go. But Zubac really struggles against these centers. They have Jared Allen, they have Mobley, they have Markham playing the 3. I just see the Cavs definitely being able to cover this game. 8 is a lot of points for the Clippers, who are 1-2 on the season. They've looked inconsistent. They looked really good against the Blazers, but the Blazers are a shit show. Like, they are a complete shit show. And I just don't see what the Clippers have done to be 8-point favorites against the Cavs. Maybe the Cavs just come out. Maybe the Clippers just come out and blow them out of the water. But I don't know. I think the Cavs they're developing into a nice young team with a lot of good talent. And I'm like, why are the Cavs 8-point favorites? They're coming off a win against the Nuggets in Denver a couple days ago. So I don't understand the line. I just don't understand why the Clippers are 8-point favorites against the Cavs, who are 2-2 on the year. Again, coming off a big win against the Nuggets in Denver. That's hard to do, especially with the altitude. Think about the altitude. And that's hard to do with the altitude. So I don't get it. I think it's just a mystery line for me, and when I see those, I have to take the underdog. So I'm taking the Cavs +8 against the Clippers. Could the Cavs win this game? Maybe. I mean, anything's possible, but I do think they could cover. Good teams win, great teams cover, and I do think the Cavs definitely can cover the +8. Okay, my next pick. So this is an ESPN game going on tonight. Grizzlies are taking on the Blazers. The line has moved a little bit since I did this setup. So the Grizzlies, I believe now, are 2.5 point underdogs instead of just 2, which is even better because, yeah, they're 2.5 point underdogs plus 115 money line. I like the Grizzlies. I really like the Grizzlies tonight against the Blazers. Again, the Blazers are a shit show. Damian Lillard has been stinking it up this entire for like the first 3 games. He's been really stinking up, shooting like 9% from 3. He's due for a breakout game. He is, but I just don't see it happening tonight. And so because of that, I do like the Grizzlies plus 2.5. I might even sprinkle the money line. Because I don't think it's impossible for the Grizzlies to win this game. So the Blazers have looked like a shit show. The Grizzlies have looked pretty good. They were very close to beating the Lakers 2 nights ago. If Ja Morant makes that third free throw, they might be looking a little bit different. They may be looking at 3-0 record, but he didn't, and he knows he's mad at himself for missing that third free throw. So he'll be back tonight. I expect a big game out of him against the Blazers. The Blazers are a shit show, complete shit show, and come on. I just don't see why are we taking the Blazers seriously when they just lost 50 to the Clippers. You know what I mean? So I kind of look at it as more like the transitive property, where it's like the Grizzlies beat the Clippers and the Clippers beat the Blazers by 50, so Memphis should beat the Blazers by 75. You know what I mean? It's all about math. It's all about the transitive property, and I like the Grizzlies plus 2.5 sprinkle on the money line. And then so there's a lot of good games. Like I said, big slate tonight, but a game that I do like, but it's not an official play. I'm just thinking about it. It's not an official Marks Takes play. It's going to be Heat Nets. This game, I think personally, I would prefer to watch on ESPN rather than the I believe it's Hawks Pelicans on ESPN. So rather than Hawks Pelicans, I would way rather prefer to watch Heat Nets on national TV. I don't know what that they were thinking, but so this line has been moving very quickly, which is a reason why I'm not taking it. Originally, when I looked this morning, the Nets were 4.5 point favorites, and now it's down to 3.5. So it's moving quickly. I do like the Heat plus 3.5. I would probably buy a point, honestly. Plus 4, and that'd be minus 120. So the reason I like this, because the Nets, again, it's very hard to get a read on teams this early in the season, which makes betting very difficult. The team that is the worst right now could very well win the championship. So it's just very hard to get a read, which makes betting very difficult. And because of that, I think the Nets stink right now, but they don't stink, okay? I don't know what is truly wrong with them. Obviously, they're missing Kyrie. KD cannot do it all. James Harden was really stinking up those first 2 games. He's bounced back since then. They played the Wizards. He had a nice little bounce back against the Wizards. But KD was trying to do it all those first couple games, and it's just exhausting for him to try to carry, that whole team. They don't really have good center play. I don't know, they're just not great. They really do miss Kyrie. Outside the 3 of them, the rest of them are just kind of bums. Blake Griffin is like a corpse out there. Literally looks like he's 50 years old out there. Claxton is a developing player, but he can't be a starting center on a team that's trying to win a championship. Joe Harris has been gone since last year's playoffs against the Bucks. I don't know where he went. I do like the way Patty Mills has played for them off the bench. I could see him as a very easily 6-man candidate of the year. He's looked really good off the bench. Besides that, I like the Heat. PJ Tucker, new Heat addition, guards Kevin Durant very well. You can recall back to last year when PJ Tucker was on the Bucks, guarded Kevin Durant in the semifinals, did a good job on Kevin Durant. Now he's on the Heat. and he's back at it. Gonna be guarding Kevin Durant all night tonight. Bam. The center play for the Nets is so bad that I could just see Bam feasting. Jimmy buckets, Tyler Hero. I think the Heat, this is a game the Heat possibly could win. I mean, they're a plus 140 money line. I love pluses. I love positive value, but I would take the spread plus 4. Yeah, plus 4. But this is not an official Marks Takes play. My plays of the days are the ones that are, on the little thing right there. It says Pods, Cavs, and the Grizzlies. Those are my 2 official plays that I'm playing today. And but the Heat again is a game that's just tough. It's just, again, so hard to read teams so early into the season, like which teams are good, which teams are bad. That's why I kind of like the beginning of the season, because not a lot of big expectations. You can just vibe. You can just feel it out. But these 2 plays, besides me, Cavs plus 8 and the Grizzlies, are 2 plays I'm confident on. Getting the ball rolling on NBA betting. I like to get it done slowly, because you don't want to jump right in. You got to get the ball rolling, feel out the teams, and then eventually you'll find a rhythm. But again, at the beginning of the season, it's very difficult. Okay, so that's going to do it for NBA. That's all the NBA content and picks I have for today's show. Let's talk NFL. So NFL, we have a Thursday night football game. This was a game that was supposed to be a top-tier game, right? This was supposed to be a top-tier game for the NFL. Like, we've been getting some really shitty Thursday night football games. Really shitty. I mean, we had to endure, let's see, Bengals, Jaguars. We had to endure Panthers, Texans with Davis Mills. Last week wasn't great with the Browns and the Broncos. These are some horrible games that Roger Goodell gives to us every Thursday. And he's like, here, just watch these games. And me, as a football fan, I'm going to watch them no matter what. I'm going to watch these games every single week. But they're borderline torture. I think the worst one by far was last week, Broncos. Davis Mills was pretty bad. But I had the Panthers, plus 9. So the Panthers, minus 9. So I was really happy about it. But this is a game that was supposed to be a premier matchup on Thursday Night Football. 2 really good teams. Packers coming in at 6-1. The Cardinals are the lone undefeated team at 7-0. This is supposed to be a premier matchup. However, the Packers are dealing with some COVID problems, it's just a bummer, because this is a game that I was really looking forward to, and now it's just going to possibly be a blowout by the Cardinals. The Cardinals are currently 6.5 point favorites against the 6.5 point favorites against the Packers. There's definitely been some injury news that I'm going to get into. So first of all, getting into the Packers COVID stuff. So Davante Adams is unlikely to play. This is 2 hours ago from Adam Schefter. Davante Adams is unlikely to play Thursday night, considering he would still need 2 negative COVID tests. So he has COVID. And then Packers. There's another Packers wide receiver who, I don't know how to say his name, Allen Lazard. He's out because he's unvaccinated and cannot be cleared in time for Thursday. So he's unvaccinated and he was exposed to COVID. So that's like a 2-week, I believe it's like a 2-week thing, a 2-week long quarantine. I'm trying to remember back to pre-vaccine, but I felt like it was like a 2-week thing. If you're vaccinated, I think it's about like a week or 5 days. And the Cardinals have also ruled out J.J. Watt for tomorrow's game against the Packers due to shoulder injury. So it's just like an injury fest, and it's just such a bummer, because this was a game that I was looking forward to. I was excited. But now, no, it's not going to be the same. Cardinals 6.5 point favorites. Over-under is 50. It's interesting. It is very interesting, because it's hard to get a read on this game. I'm leaning towards the Cardinals minus 6.5 against the Packers. I may buy a point and lead it over to minus 6. I don't really see how the Packers can hang around for a majority of the game without, offensive weapons that Aaron Rodgers loves. Like, he loves Davante Adams. It's going to be tough. The Cardinals are at home. If this was a Packers home game, I might have flipped my mind. But I think if the Cardinals are really trying to prove, okay, we're legit, go out, win a home game against the Packers, blow them out, Aaron Rodgers doesn't really care what happens. I can see it every game. That dude does not give a shit about what's going on. Like, he'll just chuck it down the field, whatever. Does not care at all. I think the Cardinals are really trying to build a serious team that's Super Bowl contender. Again, I'm not sold on them, and even if they beat the Packers, I still really wouldn't be sold on them because you're getting a Mickey Mouse Packers team, as they like to say. So, again, I'm not 100% sold on the Cardinals, but if they do cover the 6.5, I'll be sort of impressed. I think I'll probably ride the Cardinals minus 6.5. It's interesting. It's also very high over under at 50. I don't really know how many points the Packers are realistically going to put on the board. Like, realistically, I don't know, maybe in the 20s, 20, 23. But if the Cardinals really want to prove themselves as like a legit team, they go out, they curb stomp the Packers. They win by 14, 17. They cover the minus 6.5. I'm going to stay away from the over-under, but I think I'm going to ride with the Cardinals minus 6.5. Hammer the Cardinals. Hammer the Cardinals minus 6.5. And yeah, so that's basically it for NFL. It's a okay slate this Sunday. I do think that the Lions are going to win a game. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it out there for everybody. The Lions are going to win a game this Sunday. Screen record this, screen grab it, whatever you want to do, because the Lions are going to win this game. They're going to win the game against the Eagles. Looking at the Lions' schedule, they really only have like 2 games left that they can win, which is this Sunday versus the Eagles, and then they're playing the Bears Thanksgiving at home. This is it. The Lions are on an upward trajectory right now. They did lose to the Rams. They did lose. But the effort was there. Dan Campbell came out firing. They tried to switch it up a little bit. It did work for 3.5 quarters of the game. Then they blew it at the end. Jared Goff was just prime Jared Goff. But I think going into Detroit, having a home game in Detroit on the upward trajectory that they are on right now, and I say upward very lightly, very, very lightly. You get Swift going. You get Goff to play mediocrely. Like, he can play really mediocre and they can still win, I believe. Because mediocre Goff is like, that's pretty much like the best he can be. Is very mediocre. This is the game that they can win. The Eagles are a dumpster fire right now. This is the game that the Lions can win. I really don't want to see a team go 0-17. I don't want to be alive to see a team go 0-17 for the first time ever. It's so embarrassing. When the Browns went 0-16, it was funny because there was other teams that had gone 0-16. But now that there's 17 games, I don't want to see a team be the first team to go 0-17. I don't want to see it. I think they can win this Sunday. Putting it out there. I really hope. There are some other good games going on. Titans-Colts, always a good divisional matchup. We have the Steelers and the Browns. Always gets feisty between those two. Patriots and the Chargers. I'm excited to see the Chargers back from their bye week. I feel like the NFL weeks are a lot more interesting. When the Chargers are playing. I'm a Rams fan, but the Chargers are one of the most entertaining teams in all sports, but they are so fun to watch. And then our Sunday night game is Cowboys at the Vikings. That's also a really good Sunday night game. I feel like last week we got kind of screwed with the Sunday night game. It was so bad and it was so boring, and I'm like, we deserved better. So I feel like this week we will get a good game. And yes, so the Cowboys, by the way, are 7-0 against the spread. Keep that in mind when you make your bet for this weekend. Or 6-0, sorry, they were on a bye. Keep that in mind when you make a bet for this weekend. They're 1.5 point favorites right now against the Vikings. They are 6-0 against the spread. So keep that in mind the next time when you're about to bet this Sunday. Keep that in mind. 6-0 against the spread. To me, they're the best team in football, because if you're undefeated against the spread, you're just the best team in football. Okay, moving on to some college football. If you know me, college football is my sport. I love college football. It's my favorite sport to bet on. It's the sport that I'm the best at betting on. I'm hitting at a 72% success rate this year. Um, I love it. I love just the rawness of it, and I would watch college football 7 days a week if it was possible. Um, if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of the Big Ten. That is my squad. I love every Big Ten school equally, and this weekend is like the Christmas of the Big Ten. There's so many great Big Ten matchups. We have Michigan State. We have Iowa versus Wisconsin, and then this was originally supposed to be a good game about like 3 weeks ago when I first heard about this big week in the Big Ten. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so exciting. I started researching it, started getting the lines really early, and it was Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State's 18.5 point favorites, so I wouldn't say it's a good game, but things could get crazy in the Big Ten. There's nothing like some Big Ten on Big Ten friendly fire crime, knocking each other out of the college football playoff. Like, if Michigan loses, they're done. They're done. They're out of the college football playoff. I mean, they're not in right now, but their chances would be done. And they would be friendly fire. It would be someone in their own division saying, see ya, knocking them out. Like 2 weeks ago when Purdue beat Iowa, knocked them out of their college football playoff hopes. They're done. Now they're just kind of having another ordinary season for Iowa, but there's nothing like a shitty Big Ten team knocking off a really good Big Ten team, just crushing their dreams, just friendly fire. Nothing makes me more happy, and this is the ultimate weekend for friendly fire. So number one, Michigan State. The line is moving very quickly. When I checked this morning, it was Michigan plus 5.5. It is now down to Michigan -4. Michigan State +4. This game is in East Lansing. It's going to be hype. It's going to be insane. It's just going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be an insane atmosphere. One of my favorite rivalries for sure, Michigan State. I want Michigan to lose. I truly do, because I don't think they're actually that great of a team. They haven't played anybody. They beat Nebraska on the road by 3. Big whoop. I really want Michigan to lose. I don't want them to have any hopes of getting into the college football playoff. However, if Michigan does win this game, this might be the year that they actually can beat Ohio State. I still think Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten. They did lose early to Oregon, but I still think the Big Ten runs through Ohio State. But Michigan has made a really nice run this year. I'm impressed with the way they've bounced back this year, especially after last year when, they rehired Jim Harbaugh. They signed him to a big extension. Everybody was like, what are you doing? This guy's a clown, including myself. I thought that dude was a clown as well, because he's done nothing for the organization. You could get an average Joe on the street, sign him to an extension or sign him to a contract, and he would have done the same thing that Jim Harbaugh did in his 4 or 5 years at Michigan. So when they signed him to the extension, I was like, what? Like, he's done nothing more than an average Joe. But this year they've responded very nicely. Again, they haven't played anybody super great. This is their first real test, okay? Nebraska, I would say it's like a half test. Like, you got a foot in the door. And, yeah. So, but besides that, they really haven't had, like, a real good test yet and this is an away game. It's going to be rowdy. They always are. These games are always crazy. It always reminds me of that meme of that guy that's like in the Michigan stands when Michigan State won at the very last second, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. There's that one meme of the kid with the glasses. He just like shocked. And it always reminds me of that. It gets rowdy. Iowa, Wisconsin is also a very interesting game. Both these teams, I think, stink. Like, Wisconsin's offense is horrible. I don't know why they're 3.5 point favorites against Iowa. Iowa, yeah, they did lose against Purdue. Embarrassing, but I still don't think they're a bad football team. I think Wisconsin is generally, like, sucks. Their defense is okay. Their defense is what keeps them in games. Wisconsin is really bad against the spread, and Iowa, I don't think is a bad football team, but I don't know why Iowa is a 3.5 point underdog. That's something I just don't understand. Other games, Indiana, Maryland. Indiana, I believe, is 1-5 against the spread. So I'm going to take Maryland -5.5 because Indiana, like, just fade Indiana and you've made a lot of money. I've been doing that since it started. Since college football started, I've been fading them. Most profitable bet in sports, number one, fade Indiana. Fade Indiana football, take Maryland -5.5. Number two, fade Clemson. Clemson is 0-6 against the spread this year. They have not covered one time. They're playing Florida State. They're playing Florida State this weekend. Florida State is a 9.5-point underdog. I love Florida State. I love Florida State because Clemson is 0-6 against the spread. I have not bet Clemson once this year, and I'm really happy. I started fading them a couple weeks ago when I realized they stink. So I took Pitt last weekend. So fun. So fun. Pitt is one of my favorite teams now. I took Pitt -3 against Clemson. Clemson stinks. I took Syracuse +14 against Clemson 2 weekends ago. Syracuse lost, but they covered very easily. And then I took NC State. I think it was +14 as well against Clemson. NC State won outright. It's been very profitable, and I'm going to keep the train rolling. Florida State +9.5 against Clemson. Besides that, there was another really good game. Texas and Baylor. It's a close one. Texas +3, Baylor -3. I like Baylor. Texas to me is dead. After they choked to Oklahoma, like 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago, then they lost to Oklahoma State. They were up, lost to Oklahoma State. They are dead to me. I think they're also just dead inside. These kids, how much can these kids endure every single week? Baylor's a tough matchup on the road. I like Baylor -3 against Texas. Texas is dead. They've been dead for a while now. They just I just honestly feel bad for them at that point. And then Penn State, Ohio State, I'm just going to stay away from that because I think Penn State does kind of stink. I don't know. I may take Ohio State, but it's a lot of points, and usually spreads like that I don't take, except last week I took Ohio State -21 against Indiana. That was the easiest bet of my lifetime. That was the easiest thing I've ever done. They won by 40 points. It was beyond easy. I didn't even watch the game, but it was 44-7 at halftime. I said, okay, they're going to cover. I thought Indiana was maybe going to score one more touchdown in the second half to make it maybe sweaty, a little sweaty, like one drop of sweat. No, they didn't score once. And Ohio State scored again. It was the easiest bet ever. I'm going to stay away from that. And then lastly, North Carolina, Notre Dame. Notre Dame -3.5-point favorites. I'm going to stay away from that. I think they're both kind of frauds. But I'm leaning more towards Notre Dame at home under the lights. I'm leaning more towards Notre Dame. But yeah, so that's for the college football. Going to be a fun weekend of college football. I am so excited. I would watch college football, like I said, every single day if I could. I would watch these Big Ten matchups every single day because I just love the Big Ten. I love college football. I love the rawness it represents, but it's a good week. I felt like last week was not the best week in college football. Kind of a lot of blowouts, a lot of heavy favorites, and NFL last week was not good either. There was a lot of heavy favorites. The games all sucked. I think there's a lot better games for both, for college football and NFL this weekend. October's the best time in sports, embrace it, take it all in. That's what I do every day because October's the best month in sports. That's going to do it for me today for my first Mark's Take Sports Radio show presented by 12 Ounce Sports. Went by so fast. Quick 30 minutes. I'll be back next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Hope everyone has a great day, and I will see y'all next